Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up?
What's up?
How you doing, Nick?
Post Thanksgiving recovery phase here.
Yeah. So it begins.
I guess Thanksgiving's a uniquely American thing. Although Canada has their Thanksgiving. When is it? In October or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse to get together with your family and eat a bunch of shitty food.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of like specific meals that are really like kind of, I suppose, unique to Thanksgiving?
Turkey is the centerpiece.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the whole story, but it was like the pilgrims that came here or whatever were starving, and the Indians brought them a turkey to keep them from starving. It's been since elementary school. We've told. Who knows if it's actually true? But that is the legend it's based on. Otherwise, it would have been the end of white people in the U.S. Little did they know that we were going to murder them and take their land away from them later on. so it didn't work out. In hindsight, they probably wouldn't have given us that turkey.
Yeah. Well, they would have like laced it with poison.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's sort of the centerpiece of it. It's for me. It's probably my favorite holiday because I like to eat and I like seeing my family, and there's no presents. You don't have to worry about that stuff. It's literally just getting together with your family and having a dinner and just hanging out with people that you normally don't see. So that's
what I'm kind of getting at here is, I suppose Thanksgiving is what Christmas should be.
Right. Yeah. Without the, although there is Christmas wrapped into Thanksgiving, because the day after Thanksgiving here in the United States is what we call Black Friday, which is the biggest shopping day of the year. I don't know if it still is or not, but it's when everybody goes out and spends all their money that they've saved for Christmas presents and goes broke. But there's all these big sales and stuff on Black Friday.
Yeah, they have Black Friday sales in Australia. I don't know if they're as good as in America, but it seems weird that we have Black Friday, but we obviously don't have Thanksgiving. So it's just like a random. Once a year we have these.
Do you have capitalism?
Is that a trick question?
we have the holiday.
Pass up the opportunity to make money off of the masses. I always get caught up. I always get something on Black Friday. I wanted to get a gaming laptop this year, but instead I got a couch. Being an adult.
So we have the holiday on Thursday where the Indians saved us from starvation and a horrible death through the cold, harsh winter, and then the day after we have a holiday that celebrates capitalism.
Yeah. What's more American than that?
That's about as American as it gets. Yeah. So we rolled back from the Masters USA's on Tuesday. That was I had a good time. Other than getting sick on show day, that was brutal, man. I got sick.
I can't believe that. Why do you think? Do you think it was just a build up of stress, and then finally you had that rest?
No, I was pretty easy. I wasn't stressed or
you're
nervous
cool
at all.
As a cucumber.
No, I have IBS, and it's every couple months I'll have an IBS flare up, and it was just a poorly timed IBS flare up. IBSD, so the worst kind. But I think what it was, we did a fat load the day before.
Oh, that would have messed up your gastrointestinal tract.
Yeah, and I don't deal with fats very well anymore. And people make fun of me for not eating a bunch of cheat foods. I wish I could. I just can't.
Yeah.
And it's just wrecks me if I eat a high fat meal anymore. And then after prejudging, Justin told me to go get a burger and fries. And it was just like somebody lit the fuse on a bomb after I had the burger and fries, and I was just on the toilet all the rest of the afternoon. So I had no food between prejudging.
In retrospect,
finals.
I'm seeing the irony in that burger and fries being from In-N-Out.
Yeah, In-N-Out. Yeah, Deca Beats. He says that it's bile production. I have wondered if I don't have like a gallbladder issue, but I don't think it is, because I think it would show up in my liver enzymes.
Yeah. So, did you take any digestive enzymes when you had the fats? Because when I fat loaded, I was taking betaine HCl, which helps increase I suppose it's the overall acidity of the stomach.
I bought a bunch of lipase for Thanksgiving, and that helped.
Oh, good.
Yeah, my stomach. It's funny because I was looking at like when people take digestive enzymes, like you get the general all-purpose digestive enzymes, and there's such a little amount of them in these general all-purpose meals. Like I was looking at it, like they have like it broken out on their website, like how many you need to take. And it was like one pill would deal with like 5 grams of fat. I'm like, who the fuck's eating 5 grams of fat?
Yeah.
So you got to take like 10 of them. So I think people don't take enough of them to actually do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, lipase, it's the one that's responsible for like breaking down the actual fats in our diet.
So I bought that one specifically. Not the, so most of the people just say digestive enzymes, but if you look at the ones that you get at the store, they just have a little bit of everything in it. There's like 15, 20 different digestive enzymes, and it's not enough to really do anything. Yeah, Scott said he tried to do fat loading for his photo shoot and it wrecked him. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the fat load. I think I looked better the day before the show when I was coming off my high day, and then the fat load really screwed me up.
Well, see, a lot of people fat load their fats with their carbohydrates, and I don't think that's the best approach if you're going to fat load. I prefer Scott Stevenson's approach, which is to actually fat load before you do the carb load. So that way you're basically, if anything, increasing insulin sensitivity and that insulin-genetic response to the carbohydrates when you do start loading them. And you also get a little bit of natural diuresis from the high fat, protein, low carb days leading up. So you basically flush out a bit of water and you're really just potentiating and priming your body for those carbohydrates. I think that's the best way to fat load. People that, like you kind of, I suppose, experience, and I've experienced in the past when I ate too many fats with carbohydrates. It just, the logic, I think, is people try to say the fats help the carbohydrates stick, but I don't think that's the case.
Well, Chris said, Chris says bioproduction decreases with over age. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But Todd was also saying, I heard Todd saying, and I didn't know this, that
anabolics decrease bile acid flow.
Yeah, anabolics decrease bile acid flow. And he also said that when your estrogen is completely buried, that also decreases bile acid flow.
So peak week's like the worst, worst recipe for bile acid.
Lucas said invest in ox bile. I did take ox bile. That's the irony. It didn't help. So I was taking a shit ton of ox bile. So yeah, that was the irony here. But the funny part was I came into there was such a long time between the night show and the morning show. There was like 11 hours from the time that we were on stage and back on stage again. And I think the diarrhea actually dragged me out more. I was so dry in the evening. Like my skin was like stuck to my, to me. You ever been like that where like you can't, like you pull it and it just like stays?
Yeah.
It's so, it was so,
you got like a different complexion too. Hey, the skin actually looks different.
Yeah.
Like the actual, yeah, it's funny. But no,
I was so cotton mouth backstage. Like my tongue was sticking to the roof of my mouth. I was so dry. My eyelids were like sticking to my eyeballs. Like I was like having to pull my eyelids back up.
So
probably not good for your health.
Yeah. I'm guessing water is probably one of the things at the top of your priority list after the show. You're just like, you wanted a big glass of water.
I was sipping on Gatorade. I didn't go ape shit. I did. This is another story. for another from a mistake from another prep. I went ape shit on water after a show, and I went hyponatremic.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
You get edema?
hyponatremic, like where I flushed out all my sodium, and my blood sugar went up to like 400 because your body can't uptake it. I took insulin, everything, nothing. My body would not uptake any. It wasn't an insulin sensitivity, it was an insulin production thing. When you hyponatremic, your body can't uptake any glucose into the cell.
That's bad.
Yeah, it was real bad, man.
Yeah, I can't say I've experienced that. Thankfully, though, man, that would have been horrible.
I said, do you think an AI could be reduced if you take DIM and eat cruciferous vegetables with meals? I don't know. I don't know anything about that.
I think potentially, depending on like the quantity, and then also if you keep your dietary fat intake lower, that can help lower the rate of aromatization as well. I think things that would help you in this situation to avoid an AI would be like dosing zinc higher, keeping your dietary fats lower, and then eating a lot of vegetables, cruciferous vegetables that have high DIM concentrations will help. But I think the biggest needle movers will be like body fat, body composition, and then dietary fat intake. That'll probably help you the most, and then those other things are kind of will assist.
Scott was saying John Jewett doesn't recommend fat loads, just slowly load more carbs. Well, that's what we did the 3 days leading up to the fat load. In Justin's logic with the fat load, and I totally get it, is we do water depletion the day before the show, and you're not going to be able to load any glycogen if you're eating a shit ton of carbs. I think a lot of times that's why guys end up with distended bellies, because you have all the like rice and shit just sitting in your gut. Your body can't, you're not drinking enough water. So his thought process is like, might as well just load the fats then when you're doing your water depletion. It's worked for me in the past. It just, I don't know. It was like definitely when I had that in and out, the dam broke loose. Justin told me to have a large in and out meal. So I got 2 burgers, 2 doubles, and in and out. And it was.
Did you get cheese? Did you get cheese with it?
Yeah, it had cheese with it. And some sort of like mayonnaise-based sauce on it.
Oh, no. Yeah. It would have tasted good, but it wouldn't have been worth it afterwards, though.
I was so confused after the show. So I won the super heavies. It was funny at the show. There was about 35, 40 competitors in my class, but there was only one other super heavy. I was kind of disappointed. I wanted to duke it out with some other guys, but we got out on stage, and I didn't know that at a lot of these national shows they don't announce placings; they just give out the pro card. It was so weird. Yeah, it's like I got off. They just handed out the pro card, and I asked backstage, I'm like, "What's my placing?" They're like, "We don't give out placings for this." So that was interesting. I'd never heard of that. But the way they did the comparisons, you can kind of suss out where they had you. And I got some feedback and stuff afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's irrelevant anyway. But I was in the top three. It appeared. But I was happy with that for my first national show. And looking back at the videos and stuff now, the guy that won, Juan Simone. If you're listening, I would love to catch up with you, Juan. I'll put my contact information in the video description below. He is a phantom on social media. I could not find him anywhere. I would love to get him on sometime and talk, but yeah, he definitely dominated from the back. He had a very good back and a well-deserved win. So I was happy. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. I had no expectations going in, and it was a really, really overall good experience.
Yeah, I think you did really well, to be honest, like really well. And yeah, I mean, I after you sent those photos through, I saw what you mean about his back, and they do really take the posterior very, very seriously when it comes to placing. So, I mean, like you kind of mentioned, if you improve your back in the next off season, I don't think people are going to stand a chance against you because you've got the size, you've got the density. Like you said, you just need to, I suppose, balance out the back relative to the rest of your physique, which is just already very dominant.
Well, I was the biggest guy up there, that's for sure.
Exactly.
I'll show the video. I have to be careful not to play the audio because they'll give me a freaking copyright strike. I already had that from the stuff. Even in gym videos, you got to be careful if there's something playing in the background. They can give you a copyright strike. But this was that's him. He got first place on the right. Let's see here. This is Colin's. The cell phone video work, so
I did my best. I had to battle for position to even get up.
You can see his back.
Video.
His back was just very detailed. I mean, he had an incredible back. I felt like I hung with everybody from the front.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just dug out from the back. That's all it was.
Yeah, and Justin and I talked about that before the show. He's like, I feel like we could get your back a bit leaner, a bit tighter, but he didn't think it was worth sacrificing the extra size for it.
Especially if it's your first. Well, it's your first show with all of this new tissue added, isn't it? Like, you never want to over diet too much because, I mean, it just, makes all of that effort that you put into the off season.
Well, the feedback I got is that I needed more density in my upper back, that I had plenty of width. I mean, you can see from the front lat spread, I'm plenty wide, so it's not a width issue. But I'll be honest, in our training over the last year, I kind of put back on the back burner, no pun intended, because I felt like that was one of my strong points, and that was probably a mistake.
Yeah. Well, with your back training, what does a typical back session look like for you?
I train twice a week, and I have I have one session that's a vertical pulling, one's horizontal pulling, so it's width and density. So I'm probably going to put more back. You can see here. This is they said that they ran us through this rear double bicep 3 times, so they were clearly comparing us on the rear double bicep.
Yeah, big time.
I mean, you can see how crazy defined his back was. I will say I made a mistake on my posing. I've had trouble with this on my rear double bicep where I don't get you can see my scapula is pinched together.
Yeah, you haven't opened your scaps up, and you're not arching back as much. So
and I'm not leaning. I'm not leaning. I'm not leaning back.
Light good.
Yeah, so I'm not catching the light very well.
Yeah. And honestly, that'll make a difference on its own. Such a massive difference.
I worked on it in my posing, and then I fudged it on the stage. I goofed it up when here's Todd. So I goofed it up when I got on stage, but you could see where I think my glutes, my hamstrings and everything were better, but the detail on his back was just crazy.
Yeah.
I was also super flat from not eating.
Well, if you haven't, what were you going to say?
They ran us. They did that pose with us 3 times, so they were clearly looking at that.
Yeah.
So the lower lats on him versus your glutes and hamstrings.
Yeah, I felt like I had better glutes and hamstrings, but
with the back density thing, Paul, if you don't have any dumbbell rowing work in your back training, I'd really recommend putting in a bent over dumbbell row bilaterally. It was like a game changer for me.
We put the dumbbell rows back in. That was a mistake pulling them out.
Yeah, they're really good for density.
You like them at the same? You like them at the same time rather than one at a time?
Yeah, I find that it's better loading the posterior chain when I do them bilaterally. If I do them unilaterally, like kneeling on a bench, I can really focus on, I suppose, just getting a very symmetrical contraction from one side to the other. But I definitely think, just that because you're almost in like a RDL position in the bottom when you're doing a bent over row with both. And I just think it's really effective for that. Yeah.
So you don't do your bilateral dumbbell rows with a chest support. You just do them as if it was a barbell, but with the freedom that dumbbells provide.
Essentially, yeah, 100%. Oh. And it was a big game changer in my back because I did those for a few meses. So I was thinking 4 post show, my recent show, and my I'll try and make a comparison photo later on and chuck it in our group chat because it's crazy how much my back came up into like 4 months after my show.
Dave was asking, were you confident in the quality of your posing in your rear shots? No, I screwed it up. We were just talking about that. I did not get my scapula spread on that rear double. I have a hard time getting my scapula pulled apart on the rear double bicep. I was getting it. Brandon Barrow was my posing coach. We were getting it. But, I don't know. But so part of me, I didn't pose as hard as I normally do on stage either because I was so dehydrated from having diarrhea all day long, and I had used a diuretic too. I did not want to cramp up. I was trying to pace myself because I didn't know how many time comparisons they were going to do. So I could have gone a little harder on my posing.
Yeah. Todd can probably back me up on this one. Like when you're posing fully hydrated, preparing for your show, it's a completely different kettle of fish to posing on stage when you're dehydrated from diuretics, let alone from diarrhea. If you can't feel the contraction as much, it's going to be really hard to nail that pose. Making little mistakes like that. I was doing the same thing in one of my shows, and a lot of it just had to do. I didn't have that proprioception being that flat, in those muscles.
You can see here they moved me. They switched us. They moved. This was the bantamweight or whatever. They moved him over to the outside, the top four, and then they moved me back over to the end here after comparing me to the winner. But then they'll move me back next to the winner again for one more pose, and they had us run through the double biceps again. But Juan was very ripped. I mean, I think he and I don't know. I felt like he and I had the best conditioning up there.
Yeah,
I think that Asian guy is a welterweight.
Welterweight, yeah. But yeah, they ran us through. I had my bit of the saggy old man ass going on, but I don't know what I can do about that other than making my. Yeah, same thing again. They ran us through rear double bicep again, and then rear lat spread again.
I think if you bring up your glutes, it'll fill it out. The skin.
Yeah. I need to do that.
Yeah,
if your glutes are as big as the light heavies, that skin would go away.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I definitely have.
It's like filling out a pair of baggy shorts, baggy pants. You get bigger and they'll just fill out. Yeah.
And then they shift us again. They bring him back over and they do a most muscular comparison. One last, because I think that's my best pose. So you can see they ran us through it again.
Yeah, you dominate that pose.
The good news is you can handle another 50 pounds of muscle.
I don't know if
you got the frame for it.
Yeah, he's got the frame for it.
Another 50 pounds.
Oh, I think you'd be surprised, especially I think because just think about how much your hamstrings have come up in this past off season. I reckon you could probably add more size in that area quite comfortably, given how well it progressed in this off season. So bringing up the posture even more, like Todd was saying, that'll fill out your glutes more, fill out the skin more, and then just having that in addition to more back density.
You can see rear double bicep
easy.
And rear lat spreads, it was just we kept going back to this stuff. This is the pose down, but it was. The
guy in the red trunks, number 36, he's got good glutes.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he was good. Yeah, so it was us in the top three, I assume. I mean, I don't know. They didn't give us placings, like I said, but at least that's what I was told.
I was surprised that there was no middleweight class, no lightweight class, and no bantamweight class, and the welterweight was only one person. That just blows my mind that they only had the top three classes.
Is it just a lack of people registering for the show? Or?
I mean, it was really weird. There was 15 light heavyweights. Everybody was a heavyweight and a light heavyweight.
That's because there are 22. Everybody who's lighter than light heavy.
And here's when they handed out the pro card.
Everyone who's lighter than, I don't think she's ever walked in heels before. Everyone who's lighter than light heavy ends up doing classic. That's pretty much what happens. And then everybody's a light heavy or heavy, and then almost no one is going to be over 225 shredded unless they're already a pro.
It was funny though, talking to Juan. He listens to the show, so he got a picture with me afterwards. But very, very nice guy, very, very gracious guy. I was, very, very flattered.
Didn't he say he got some pointers from your videos?
I'm like, so you kicked my ass, now you want to kick me? No, I'm very happy for the guy. He had his family with him there, and he was super nice.
Yeah, he seemed like a really great dude.
Seemed like a really great dude. And overall, my experience was great. The show was a little disorganized, but you know how it goes at bodybuilding shows sometimes. Everything was late. I'm not sure.
Yeah, nothing runs some schedule.
The people that did the tans, man, they were spot on with the tan. The girls that were doing the tans were excellent. Like I went back in for it. Like I told you, they weren't spraying again, Todd. The girl slipped me back in before finals and got me. I just went over and asked, and she's like, "Well, technically we're not supposed to, but she's like, come on back." And she touched me up and gave me another round. And it was, they did an excellent job with the tans. I was really happy with how the tan looked.
In reference to Nick's comment, I mean, I find that Gary Udit shows run on time, and
Gary's shows are really
Freddie
good.
shows run on time.
Yeah, Gary's shows are always really, really, really good. It's funny. I named the podcast "The Sin of Spray Tan and Farts." If anybody ever wants to know what it's like backstage, a lot of protein farts, a lot of spray tan smell. You got all these guys that haven't pooped in 3 days. Because when you're so dehydrated, man, nothing comes out.
Yankee Candle still hasn't released that scent yet.
I'll say it again, Juan, if you're listening, I'm going to put, after the thing, I'm going to put my email address and stuff in the video description. Reach out to me, buddy. I'd love to talk to you.
So what was your post-show feed?
I didn't really eat anything, man. I was sick.
Oh, true, yeah.
So, I mean, the next day we went out for I wanted to get some authentic Mexican food, which really is probably best had on the West Coast.
And probably not good to have after an IBS episode.
Yeah, well, I had it anyway, and then I paid the price for it later on that day. But that was really it. That was we had some barbecue later in the evening that day. It wasn't very good. It's California barbecue. It wasn't that great, but I have not been weighing and measuring my food this week, but I've been pretty much just eating, because it's a terrible week for dieting with Thanksgiving and all the travel and stuff. But I've been eating pretty clean this week. Actually, my weight yesterday was exactly the same as I weighed in at the show. So wow. I haven't really put on any weight. I'm definitely watery. But now I'm going to get on the Chase Irons plan, 18 units of GH a day.
Yeah,
I'm running a combo of generic and Serostim, so I'm going to run both, cover my bases, save my money, and get both in.
Just to make up the numbers, yeah. Well, I think if you've got a good generic, and if it works, why not save yourself some money?
I ran, not yesterday, the day before, I ran 16 units. Let's see. Well, I'm trying to think. It was half. I don't. What are the black tops? They're 12 units, right?
Which one do you have? 122 or 125?
I don't know.
I thought they come in either 10 or 15 units.
The black tops. I have a readout on all of the Metatropes going back several years. So every single batch number has a different exact amount.
It's the most recent batch.
The most recent batch is 125 blacks. It's 15.66 milligrams. So it comes out to being 17 units per container.
Oh shit! So I did 21 units of GH. I did the whole bottle, and then 4 units of Serostim. on top of that, and I was pretty full yesterday at the gym.
Yeah.
Just for my so my competition plans, there's 3 shows that are relatively close together in July. There's the Team Universe, Masters Nationals, and North Americans. They're all within like 6 weeks of each other.
It's the USA that's in July. North Americans is always the last weekend of August, first week.
August, yeah. Sorry, I meant that. So they're within like 6 weeks, of each other. Sorry.
Usually mid-July is Masters Nats. End of July is USA, and end of August is North American. So in theory, you could do Masters Nats over 50, over 40, over 35. Then if you wanted, you could do the USA, and then you could go back and do North American and do over 50, over 40, over 35, and open.
I thought about doing nationals. It's 2 weeks from this Saturday, but they don't have a Masters division this year.
That is what Masters Nationals is. Masters Nationals is the Masters division from Nationals, just like the Masters USA is the Masters division from USA. They split it up. Rather than splitting it up male and female, which would make more sense, they split it up based off of age.
Yeah, they were talking about how people were complaining about how they give out multiple pro cards at Masters Nationals, and then they only do one at USA's.
Masters USA's.
Yeah, there's a lot of people complaining about that.
It's because it's a brand new show, so there's not usually enough people showing up. To answer Fitness McGee's questions, Nationals, there's only one Nationals, and that's the most competitive show. Then there's USA's, and then there's North American, but that's not this. They're not equivalent. I would say USA and Nationals is equivalent, but North American is Canada, US, Mexico, the Caribbean, Greenland. So it's supposed to pull for more people, but it doesn't end up pulling for more people.
Yeah, some of these shows are only domestic, only like this. The Masters USA's I just did. You had to be a U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't. I don't know if Masters Nationals. You can go from Masters Nationals. When I went there last year, that was a huge show, and it was across 4 days, I think.
It's because it's Gary. Because Gary runs such a good show, he keeps getting more shows. So women are usually Wednesday and Thursday. The junior men divisions is like Friday, like classic and physique, and then Saturday is just bodybuilding. And then on Sunday is when you have the pro show, the Pro Masters World Championship.
Although I think they did that this year with North Americans. They moved it.
Oh, that's what I meant to say. I meant to say North American. Yeah.
Yeah.
But every Gary shows like that. When I did on North American in 2020, it was everyone assumed no one was doing it because of the scamdemic. So instead, there was 1,500 people there. It was the biggest in history. I remember when I did it in like 2010, it was the biggest of all time, and it was only 600 people. So just to give you an idea how much the sport grew between 2010 and 2020, it multiplied by 2.5-fold.
Well, I think
insane.
there were over 1,000 competitors, they said, last year at Masters Nationals. It was crazy. I had a guy competing in the over 60, and there was like 60 dudes in the over 60 class.
Wow.
But they hand out multiple pro cards. Todd and I were kind of sussing out where they give them, but I think it's like 11 or 12 pro cards they give total.
It's 102 for all divisions, male and female combined.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about for bodybuilding.
Yeah, for bodybuilding at Masters, I know it's the 4 in over 35. I know it's 4 in over 40, and it goes down from there. Same thing with North American.
I think they did 2 in over 50.
In North American, it's 4 in open, 4 in over 35, 4 in over 40, and then it goes down from there.
Well, my plan is to come back and do the over 50. I feel like I'd hold my own there, so we'll see. And so it's going to be a short off season.
What's the date of the shows? Because I'm honestly thinking, guys, of maybe either going to Japan late next year or America late next year to do a few shows and try to get my pro card.
July.
July.
I mean, summer's when all the shows are happening, July and August.
Nick, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Yeah, you can't do a Masters show.
You can do
No, not a Masters. I meant like if there was a show that a show that Paul was doing that had like Masters and Opens in the same
North
show.
Americans.
Yeah, North American would be the one. I tell everyone who's east of Texas, that North American is definitely the best choice. That's a man. As far as a woman, I say go to Junior Nats, which is in Chicago. If you're west of Texas, that's pretty much all muscle contest territory where they run the USA. And it seems that the criteria is different. Whereas on the East Coast, it's conditioning. On the West Coast, it's more size.
Okay.
This is a question from Chris. He's like, is the growth from shows coming from more people being good at bodybuilding and wanting to compete, or is it just doing more shows to make more money? So here's the thing. Like, there aren't as many bodybuilders as there used to be. There definitely are not as many bodybuilders, but there's a shit ton of men's physique guys. And there's classic. But men's physique has radically grown, and then so have the women's competitors. So I think bodybuilding has actually gotten smaller.
Well, it's just a pyramid. There's entry level divisions like the swimsuit divisions, and then there's the elite at the top, which is where the bodybuilders are. I mean, it's simply a muscle game. So if almost no one actually is outside the criteria for classic physique, so therefore almost everyone is classic physique or men's physique, it's such a minute percent of the population that can have over a 30 BMI and be shredded. You're obese and shredded at the same time. That's such a tiny population. I don't think most of the guys from the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s would be able to place out of classic physique and into. I mean, like how tall was how much do these guys weigh on stage?
Lee Labrada was tiny.
Well, he was 180 on stage. What's his name? Frank Zane was 180 on stage. Even Flex Wheeler never got over, I think, 225 on stage. So, like, he's one of the greatest of all times. He still wouldn't be a bodybuilder. He'd be classic.
Yeah, my BMI on my DEXA scan was 31.
Right. That's the cutoff. I figured this out a while ago. Is like
31.7 is what it was. I just looked.
Yeah. So 31, they just raised it. It was 27.5 BMI for NPC classic cutoff, and then it was 30 for IFBB classic cutoff. So I think they've raised it by 2 pounds for your height, which basically means it needs to be a 30.5 for your height, maybe. But other than that, there's almost nobody who's officially obese and under 5% body fat. That's such a tiny population.
My DEXA scan came back at, I got it done the Wednesday before the show, came back at 5.9 is where I was at on my DEXA.
With muscular people, it's even less accurate than it is with the general population.
Yeah, Justin said that he thought that was pretty low for my size.
Right. So here's the thing, like, let's say the variance on under 10% is plus or minus 5%. That means you could take it 3 times, and one time it comes back as 1%, one time it comes back at 5%, and one time it comes back at 10%, and nothing changed except for the day you took the test. So therefore, it's useful for people who are over 15% body fat, but like everything else, nothing applies to us. Like, that's how I think Ronnie said his DEXA scan had him at 0.33% body fat. I don't think he's lying or he's stupid. I just think that the test is that inaccurate.
Did I show you the picture where I was too big to fit in the damn?
What they did with me is they had one of my arms out of the machine and one of my arms fully in the machine, and then they just doubled the amount of that arm and approximated what the actual value was. With you, they cut off half of both your arms.
I had somebody reach out to me that was a tech, and they said that they did it incorrectly. That I probably would have been leaner if they had done it correctly. But you can see here where I didn't fit in the machine.
Yeah.
What is up with my one lung? It looks weird.
What hand?
Lung.
Oh, because there's
one
a heart. One
Oh,
heart's in the way. The heart go right where that crosses to that's right at the edge of the heart. So the heart's blocking that lung.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was hilarious of it. You can see. The weird part was, as I said, my arms were the fattiest part of my body, which is so fucking weird. Like, I don't have any fat on my arms at all.
Yeah, that's strange. Do you think maybe intramuscular fat? Like
Maybe I
maybe
don't
that's
know.
what they mean.
I don't
That's
know.
strange. Yeah.
Yeah, it read, and I had very, very low visceral fat. Like, it was like down to like a pound.
Was it cold?
Wow.
It looks like you just got less blood flow to your arms.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, she tied my arms together to try to fit me in the machine.
Well, why aren't they touching
That'd
you?
be it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, Marty.
All they're supposed to do is have you hang one of your arms out, and then they just double the amount of one arm, and then that's how they calculate.
Yeah,
it
that's what some couple people reached out to me that were techs and said they did it incorrectly. That's the way they should have done it. Man, I was like, I tell you what, about 2 days before the show when I did my carb up, I was looking gnarly, man. I wish I'd looked like this on stage.
And then Attack of the Five Guys.
What happened? Why
guy
did
in the background?
So all you got to do is rip
Fat
up your
load
fat.
gone wrong.
Yeah, the fat load. I never understood the fat load, but
The fat load made me sick, man. I
would never fat load that close to a show. If I did a fat load start of the peak week only, and then have it stop I'm
going to talk to Justin. I don't think I'm going to do it the next time.
Well, I think that people misunderstand the point of the fat load. So the idea is you want the calories to stay high, but you only want a carb cycle, not calorie and carb cycle. So you fill in the gap of lower carbs with fats. You're not loading fat. When people say fat load, it implies you're trying to shove fat into the muscle cells, shove fat into the fat cells, which sounds illogical. It's just
a high gastric load of fats. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, if your pancreas and your gallbladder aren't used to handling more than 50 grams of fat a day, you're not going to digest that. It's absurd. So there's no reason to even try. Fat's way too hard to digest.
Yeah, I was having a hard time with it.
Less of a fat load, more of a fat replacement, Todd.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes, we should call it carb cycling, but isocaloric on those days. And then we go hypercaloric carb, high carb on those Thursday, Friday, and in your case, Saturday with a taper so that your abdominal contents have been eliminated so that Sunday that the coach can do some fine touches. And really, the irony is most people, you're paying a coach all year so he can do the morning of the show fine tuning in person. So if that coach isn't going to be there a lot of the time and you're at this super high level that you're going for your pro card, you're doing pro shows. I mean, unless you're an expert, which you should be at that point, and you can look in the mirror and know exactly what needs to be done, it kind of superfluous process. And it ends up, in my experience, it slows you down a lot because you can't make decisions on the fly. So it's a double-edged sword. By having to relay a message to someone else, you get oversight so that person can hold you down if your emotions get out of control, which almost everyone's does. However, if there's a lag of a day or a week in some cases, then you're basically following bad marching orders.
I always look better with carb. I mean, even in the off season, I feel like my body responds better to low to moderate fats and higher carbs. My body composition stays better. I look better.
So all you did for that Friday, right? That was a Friday where you were flat as fuck in the morning, and then you did 60 units of insulin and a bunch of carbs that day, and you just turned into a brick shit house that was bulletproof.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah,
did that, and then the next morning, did you look flat again?
Flatten out a little bit, yeah.
All right. So that's what you got to do is carb up like that the night before, and then the morning do something like maybe 50% of that.
Yeah, we did about 1,200 grams of carbs, and yeah, I ran a bunch of insulin a day. So I usually run about 1 unit per 20 grams of carbs, somewhere around there. What I find that works for me on prep, because my insulin sensitivity is pretty high. It might go a little higher than that in the off season.
But no,
Yeah,
nonetheless, like you nailed it. You nailed it that day. You just have
and we had no fats in that day either. There was no added fats at all.
You got the recipe for success right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked. Go ahead.
What you were saying before, I was just going to say what Todd was saying before about the fat loading. That's exactly how I approached it with my my last prep. Like I was basically isocaloric, so just at approximate maintenance calories while I was fat loading, and it was about protein didn't really change. It came down a little bit when I carb loaded, but it stayed pretty much the same throughout the week. It was 275 protein a day, and then the rest was just fats and pretty much just trace carbs from like veggies and any of my fat and protein sources throughout the day. And then after the fat load, or you could just say like eating at maintenance calories with high fat intake, I transitioned from that to a carb load for the 3 days leading into the show, and it was just a bit of a pullback on food the day before the show to help empty out the gastrointestinal tract, like more of just a base day. But it worked well.
We flew out on Thursday, and it was a moderately high carb day. We were doing about 600 grams of carbs that day. And then I was a little worried when we got there because the flight got delayed. Traffic was awful. I was on my ass for like 8 hours straight, and my ankles were my calves and ankles were pretty swollen up when we got there. But it went away by the next morning.
Yeah. What did it been? Yes.
Everybody was like, "You're having heart problems." I'm like, everybody fucking swells up when they get on an airplane. That's typical.
Change in altitude and pressure, and then also, I mean,
Did you post
the
about it?
fact that you were stressed.
What's that?
Did you post about it?
Yeah.
That's why people were commenting. Anytime you put anything on internet, you're basically asking them for their opinion in their mind. That's what they think you're doing.
Yeah. And they're experts in their own minds.
Yeah, well, if they can land one, it's like landing a punch on Mike Tyson. It makes you a boxer. It's like if they could get one up on some expert, it makes them smart.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I successfully make like one of my professional comedian idols like lol on Instagram. It's such a jolt. you make a joke and they like reply to it that they liked it, or it's like fuck yeah.
Yeah, here was you could see this was
Arena
when we got
tour win.
This is when we got in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. See, that's normal. That's normal post flight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty. You can see my feet were swollen, my calves were swollen, but it went away by the next morning. And even flying back, I fasted the day we flew back. I didn't have anything to eat. I ate like the in-flight meal, which was towards the middle of the flight. So I figured that wasn't going to kill me, but it was just white turkey meatballs and some polenta. It wasn't anything like crazy. I will tell you, we flew first class, man. I'm ruined after flying first class. I never want to go back to coach again. That was the way to go.
Yeah.
We were on a big ass 777 coming back, and they put you in like your own pod. You have like this.
Oh, that is so cool.
This pod where your chair is a recliner, and you have a little desk to the side and charging station for your laptop. It was pretty nice.
My goal is to be able to afford first class one day. Like basically one day my goal is to be able to afford first class whenever I want to fly. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
That's the first time I've actually paid for it out of my own pocket. So, oh man, this is hilarious. Robert says flying economy class is the best way to Spirit. Economy class before show is the best way to. I've heard Spirit is horrible.
What my experience with Spirit, they get you there. The one time I didn't fly Spirit, they canceled the flights because of some stewardesses didn't want to work.
Yeah, we flew United. Yeah, so my rebound plans. People are asking me what I'm doing for my rebound. I am running 500 mgs of test and 400 primo right now. Just people are like, "You're going to come down to TRT." I don't think there's any point.
Yeah.
And now, if your blood work wasn't bad before.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like now. I did it like a month ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, something. It wasn't terrible. But that was before I did all the orals. I'm sure my liver enzymes are all through the roof right now.
Yeah. You got to understand when even if your bloods were a little bit out in regards to the orals and the toxic compounds, because you're pulling those out in the rebound, a lot of the time those markers actually improve a lot, even though you're still doing your rebound.
Yep, that's what happened last year. I ran my rebound. Usually I get my blood work done right after the show just to see where it was at. I remember last year, my LDL was so low, they couldn't even measure it at the end of the show. It was like my HDL was low too, but it said it's I've never seen that before on blood panel where it said they couldn't measure my LDL. That was pretty wild. Insane. I heard Jay Cutler say that happened to him one time too, but my LDL's never low. But that was pretty wild. But yeah, so I'm gonna run that 500, and then just ride the rebound. I'm gonna push the HGH and let the food do the work right now. And then I don't think I'm gonna have time to cruise for an off season because I'm gonna be back in prep in late March, early April. So the good news is that doesn't give me much time to get fat.
Well, I mean, let's be real. You're not going to need, April, May, June. Yeah, maybe. But yeah,
I essentially did a 12-week prep for this one. Yeah. The first 4 weeks of the prep, the only thing Justin did was cut me down to one high day. That was it.
As long as you're not in a ridiculous surplus, you won't gain any fat, so you don't have to worry about it. You might stay 8% before you even start prep. You might be starting at 8%, and you might only need to be in a 250 calorie deficit the entire prep of 12 weeks. So you could still grow. You could probably, with that much GH and 2 grams of gear, you could probably grow into a show.
Yeah, I'm debating what the approach should be. I know Justin likes to get aggressive with the food coming out of prep.
I wouldn't do it because right now your fat cells are more anabolic than your muscle cells. Your rebound might be 1 pound of muscle for every 3 pounds of fat. Whereas if you just let your body do its thing. That hasn't
been my experience in the past, though. I was aggressive last year, and I didn't get that fat in the off season.
I'd say maybe aim for a 0.25% rate of gain per week, 0.25 to 0.5 at the most, and then just use the mirror to gauge whether you pull back or push forward. If your visuals are good as the weight's escalating, keep with that trend. But if the visuals start losing it a bit, maybe pull calories back a bit and hold them at that more conservative level. Instead of just chasing the food escalations or just chasing the scale weight.
Yeah, I'm looking at where I started prep this year. I mean, I guess I was a little fluffy, but this was, hang on, I'll pull this up. This was where I started prep. Let me see if I can rewind this back again.
Yeah, so you were quite lean there already.
That's where I started prep.
Yeah. I don't see why you couldn't start your next prep that lean, if not leaner.
I mean, it was definitely a little frumpy, but
it looks
nice
like it's
cracked sweat.
I think it's about 12%.
Yeah, probably. That sounds about right. So as I dropped down 30 pounds, I was 270 here. So I lost 30 pounds. I don't know. My rule of thumb is as long as I can see the outline of my abs, that's where I started prep.
Just laughing at your girlfriend's comment on
Oh, what did she say? I bet you're a sock fucker too.
She cracks me up.
Savage.
You would know. She's hilarious. Everybody, because she uses a guy's name on Instagram and will everybody out. They're like, who's this smart ass that's making comments on your stuff? I'm like, it's my girlfriend.
The ultimate troll move.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm in a mini cut at the moment, and it's so depressing watching the scale weight go down. But it's like I'm just telling myself it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, it's funny how focused we get on the scale, man. I'm the same way in the off season. I'm like, it's not high enough. The scale's not high enough. And then I look back now and I was like, yeah, I was pretty fat.
Yeah. Oh, like I'm appreciating the drop, but like I don't know. You're probably the same in mini cuts because it's more aggressive. Like I've been dropping on average. I'm 2.5 weeks in, and I've dropped on average 7 to 9 pounds every week.
Yeah, I mean that just shows you it's a lot of water. You're not metabolizing that much fat in a week, so it's mostly...
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah, because I mean, I've definitely gotten quite a bit leaner, but I mean, I only did one adjustment to food, pulled food to 4,000 calories a day, and I literally just like, but it wasn't like a quick drop or anything. It's like I've linearly each day just been dropping like a couple hundred.
Yeah,
grams.
you're pulling off fluid because I mean you can do the math on it. I mean, would you say 7 pounds?
Yeah, but it's not like when I started the mini cut,
20,000 calories you burn.
Yeah, it's like I went from maintenance straight into a 1,000 calorie a day deficit, and then threw in a low dose of clenbuterol, so I'm probably in like a net like 1,100 calorie a day deficit. So that's about what is it, 2 to 2.2 pounds a week loss due to like a deficit. Yeah. So
1,000 calories would be 2 a week of fat.
So probably so like you said, mostly fluid. So like say 2 to 2.5 pounds of fat a week plus a few additional pounds of fluid on top. So it's going well, but I'm looking forward to doing my next push up though. I've been like hoarding, like just basically ordering some Primo in advance so I have it ready to go.
Smart.
I don't think I've ever done a mini cut personally.
Yeah.
Mini cuts are against my religion.
I think the only reason I really wanted to do one was one, I just didn't like how fat I was. And then also two, my appetite was going. And as soon as my appetite goes, like that's my like Achilles heel. I need my appetite. Like
I have a hard time with my appetite now, season 2. Sometimes I feel like I need to pull back or maybe like do like what I'll do with my clients is I'll sometimes take their low days down to 0 carbs, and that seems to get the appetite going again.
Right.
Just have one day where you're in a deficit like that.
Yeah, just to potentiate appetite for that next week.
Yeah, it seems like if you just do one day like that, that's a lot of times enough to get things moving again. Did we want to take some questions?
Yeah.
Haven't gotten too terribly many so far, but Chris wants to know if you would ever try Increlex, or is it not worth the investment compared to HGH? Vigorous Steve makes it sound like a magic potion.
I mean, if budget was unlimited, I would consider it. But I think it's one of those things. It's like the cherry on the sundae. I mean, if you're on the verge of turning pro or winning the Mr. Olympia contest and you've got a few $1,000s sitting around that you don't give a fuck about, go for it. But I don't know how much it's going to be worth to just I wouldn't say mediocre, but a non-advanced bodybuilder, just a beginner or an intermediate bodybuilder, it probably is not worth it at all.
I think that I would totally do it if I could get my hands on it. It's just almost impossible to find. And but it lasts. I mean, you get like 40 doses out of a bottle of 800, It actually is more
Yeah.
cost efficient than people realize. It's a lot of people don't have $800 to drop on a bottle of something, and there's no there's no market for it, so there's no supply of it. If they made smaller bottles, like $400 bottles or $200 bottles, even if it was lower unit cost, people would be willing to buy it. And then, then there'd be a demand, so there'd be a supply.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I can get it, or I could have a while ago before it went out, before it sold out. But I mean, yeah, I'd definitely run it. Probably, I'd cut back my growth intake or growth dose for a certain period, and I would, run Increlex for say maybe a 4-week stint, similar to how Roman did it, and just do it bilaterally twice a day, do 2-a-day sessions, and I mean, I think there's merit in it, but again, depends on the level that you're at. Like if you haven't really maxed out your ability to grow on, say, just anabolics and growth, I'd probably do that before dabbling in Increlex, because I mean it's just another tool in the toolbox, and you don't want to exhaust all your tools.
Right. I mean, I never considered that as anyone that stupid that they wouldn't take it on top of everything else, that they would just use the Increlex instead of GH. So yeah, I guess I'm not creative enough to imagine the depths of stupidity that some people will go. But yes, I mean,
neither. I have to,
it's like buying a spoiler, but you don't have a car.
yeah. Or getting like performance wheels for a Daewoo. Like what's the point? Yeah.
But I just mean that literally, it would be counterproductive if you didn't already be taking GH, because there'd be no binding protein 3 for the Increlex to bind to. Like, I'm not creative enough to imagine what it's like to be someone who's, I'm not there's people who don't compete and take steroids. That's the part that blows my mind.
Yeah. That's a bit, And one thing too that gets me too is like you'll get somebody that's say 160 pounds and they're asking questions like this. They'll be like, it's like, dude, you're like 160 pounds, you need food, you don't need Increlex. Like, that's,
The food, that's one point I would like to make. Anytime I see people that are not making progress, like when I get clients that work with me, the answer, and this is one that people do not like to hear, is almost never more anabolics. It's more food. You know, it's diet. It's almost always diet is the missing ingredient. It never has anything to do with with their anabolics being off. It's usually diet that I'm fixing or training.
Yeah. Well, like, you think about us, like on this like chat, how often are all of us guys usually eating on the show? Like, it's pretty common. It's like,
oh, I know the commenters let us hear about it.
Yeah, food's yeah, but it's like if we didn't do that,
I've been a good boy today. I
jacked.
haven't been munching on my chicken while
that just proves that every single person that makes a comment like that has no concept of what bodybuilding even is. It's so bizarre that they would watch a channel called Anabolic Bodybuilding when they're anti-bodybuilding, when the core of bodybuilding is eating 24/7. And if they really were 100%. A bodybuilder, not just someone who identified as a bodybuilder, but they really were a bodybuilder, then they would know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a mini cut, and after this chat, I'm literally going down to have a bowl of chicken and rice, and then a bowl of cereal before I go to bed to get the rest of my calories in. And I'm in a mini cut. Like, bodybuilding, you have to eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
And people need to focus more on that. Like, you said, Paul, and the drugs.
I think Dave Palumbo said that food is the most anabolic substance you can put in your body.
I think that was a Dante Trudel.
Oh, okay, wow.
That came from Dave.
I heard it from Dave Palumbo. My apologies to Dante.
Yeah, I mean,
said it first.
I mean,
I made a video about that in 2016. It was a video in my car, and I posted it to my YouTube channel at the time. And I copped so much flack in the comments for it, and the people were just saying like, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Food's not anabolic." I'm like, fucking hell. I got over it, and I just took the video down after a year.
Well, if it is an anabolic, fast and take 2 grams of gear and see what the results are.
Yeah.
Do we know what happened to Colton and Kurt?
Kurt's got family things going on today. Chase is going too.
Colton's probably got work stuff.
Colton's at work.
Oh, I think he probably would. He'd probably have like a cold or something.
Oh, cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, what other questions we got here?
Let's see. This one was already somewhat addressed in chat, but thought you guys might enjoy Laksha Ostwal's question. Does
Yes,
Anadrol promote
yes,
Gyno?
Anadrol can cause
It-
gyno.
He's seeing Gyno.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the time it's the progestogenic activity from it, which then upregulates I suppose, the estrogenic effects in the body. It's kind of like it potentiates, I suppose, or like amplifies the estrogenic effects in the body, but not necessarily directly by being estrogenic itself.
The most important thing to understand is it doesn't matter because no one should be using Anadrol.
Yeah.
The only exception
Yeah,
I would say
it's-
is maybe a powerlifter peaking for a
Right.
powerlifting meet.
But in
Yeah.
that case, they would know that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I mean, powerlifters know what drugs to use for powerlifting. They're not going to be watching anabolic bodybuilding. They're going to watch something like anabolic powerlifting. But I mean, there are some pros who might use Anadrol for the week before they step on stage for loading purposes. So the week before a powerlifting meet, maybe. The week before a bodybuilding show, maybe. There's pretty much no other instance when orals will ever be appropriate.
Todd, I'll never forget what you told me. What did you call Anadrol? You probably don't even remember.
I remember.
No, what I
You
call
called it
Anadrol.
Dirty Anabar.
It's another classic.
Dirty
Toddism.
Anabar. So it's Anabar with all the worst side effects.
Yeah.
So it's Colton had me on his podcast to do a dating advice.
I listened to it.
Oh, you did? Oh God.
Yeah, I liked your analogy of fighting a level 20 demon to get experience or whatever it was.
Yeah,
versus a level 2.
Yeah, like people are like, why do you always date these crazy bitches? I was like, you get more experience points. And then they're like, what do you mean?
If you survive the encounter.
if you can handle
Leveling up.
if you can handle a redheaded Scorpio stripper, then just about anything else is easy.
I made a living on dating girls when I was younger that I never wasn't quite sure if I was going to survive the night. A few times I thought I might wake up with an ice pick in my eye.
It's
One of my
the spi-
favorite stories. One of my
it's the
favorite
spice
stories.
of life.
This girl wasn't a Scorpio. She was the day after Scorpio, so she has the worst traits of Sagittarius too. We're watching a movie that she picked. She picked the fucking movie. We're watching a movie that she picked, and this girl has her boobs in it, and then pours water on them, and starts rubbing them in front of this autistic kid. And I'm like, that's not right. And she looks at me, she gets up, grabs the TV. It was one of those flat panels, and picks up and smashes me in the face with the whole TV.
What?
And then hit me over the head of it again. And she's like, and she was mad at me because I was looking at boobs. I was like, bitch, you picked the movie. I was like, I'm not the director. I didn't make this movie.
My front 2 teeth are veneers from getting them knocked out from playing video games. The girl was mad at me.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was dating in my 20s, got mad at me and tapped me on the shoulder and whacked me in the face with a broom handle.
Oh, yeah.
What was
So I've
the
had some
game?
experience. I was playing
StarCraft.
Stark.
Yeah.
StarCraft.
I remember this story.
Oh, man.
Were you Zerg or Protoss?
Oh, I'm Protoss all the way, man.
I would have been Zerg for sure.
You're a Zerg kind of guy. All right, what do we got next for the question?
Let's see here. Chris wants to know how Todd usually rebounds after a show.
You reverse
Check.
out, don't you, Todd?
Yeah, I'm gentle. I always reverse out. I end up losing more fat after the show. And then I never put on fat during that post-show period. Most of the muscle comes back when you're reversing out, even if you're in a calorie deficit still. So you don't have to worry about it. Then once the hunger is kind of gone, then I know that I'm not prone to build more fat. So that's why like 8-9 months after a show, I'm still going to have a 6-pack. That's pretty good. you know, you can fuck anything up, but I find that if you never have cheat meals, you never use sugar, and you never add fat to your food, you can't get fat. That if you're just doing clean carbs and protein, and then the incidental fat, maybe 5 or 10 grams of oil with the foods to ensure that you digest them optimally.
You mean it's hard to get fat on eating chicken and rice? Say it ain't so.
I'm pretty convinced of it. And yeah, after 15 years of this, I would say that the only fat, and this is the part that people don't understand, is calories in, calories out applies when you're dieting. It doesn't apply off season. When you have, I think, fat and sugar and you're in a surplus, the fat and sugar will definitely get stored as body fat.
Yeah, it's partitioned different.
Yeah.
And it's not violating thermodynamics if you think about it. It's just the way your body stores the excess energy, like carbohydrates we talked about. Your body's preferentially going to store those as glycogen. Yeah, especially if you're a big, heavily muscled guy. I mean, you have a capacity to I can take in 1,500 grams of carbs on a high day and not store fat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how much glycogen storage capacity do I have?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you're
whereas if you're eating carbs and mixing fat with it, I mean, your body's going to prioritize those carbohydrates as a fuel source. I mean, what's going to happen to the fat? It's already prepackaged and ready to go to be stored as fat. So thermodynamics is not being violated either way, whether it's, whether your glucose is being stored as glycogen or the fat's being stored as fat. It's just how the nutrients are partitioned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this could be my complete bro science take on it, but that's been my experience and the way I rationalize it.
No, you're right.
That's right. That's right.
You don't burn fat for fuel, really. You store fat automatically. Then it goes from storage back. Some people say, no, it goes from the chylomicrons, pass in the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system dumps in the liver, and the liver is going to synthesize energy from some of that fat. But that's at that moment
literally have to be
in
in a starvation state for your body to burn fat as fuel.
Right.
The only time you burn fat is in a deficit. In a deficit, you burn fat.
So if 50 grams of fat a day is not 50 grams of fat a day, like 10 grams of fat 5 times a day is totally different than 5 grams of fat 4 times a day and 30 grams of fat 1 time a day. When you have that 30 grams of fat that 1 time a day, 20 of it's sitting stored as body fat. And it is not coming off that season, not until you change directions and start cutting. Maybe when you're sleeping, especially if you can stick to a 14 and 10 schedule, which is optimal, is if you can stick to 14 days, 14 hours fasting, 10 hours feeding, if you can get all your calories in a 10-hour window, which is pretty much impossible for one of us, but maybe if you're 160 pounds, you're only eating 3,000 calories, you could squeeze 4 or 5, 600 calorie meals in a day. Then that 14 hours that you're fasting, your body will burn fat and do some autophagy and all that bullshit. But for one of us, it ain't happening.
No. Yeah. All right, let's get another question or two in, and then I got to roll, go get my kids.
Good.
And eat.
And eat. I got to eat too. Josh M says, speaking of Anadrol, I heard Roman talking on Chase's podcast that he loves injectable Anadrol and also injectable T-ball. I completely wrote it off. Do any of you have any experience or client experience with this?
No, but with Roman's injecting it, it's because he's in the competitive season, so it's to help with loading and that kind of stuff. I don't think he's injecting orals in the off season.
Didn't Roman say... Yeah. I could be wrong about this, but I thought he said that he has ulcers and he can't take orals because of these stomach ulcers.
That might be also true. I know that because of the amount he has to eat, he can't screw up his liver with orals for the purposes of digestion. That he needs to have an appetite to handle it. Like yesterday, he had 25,000 carbs.
2,500
just carbs. No, 25,000. Oh, yeah, 2,500 carbs yesterday.
Yeah.
Just yesterday. All week, it's been like that because we text pretty much every day about this, is what exactly he's eating there because he's in Japan, so the food options aren't the same as what we're used to. So trying to figure shit out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh said he said for off season it doesn't mess up his app. We'll have to ask him. I'll have to get him back on and ask him.
Now, Roman's a special situation. You know, like Roman does a lot of things different from everyone else, and it definitely works for Roman. Roman's probably got the best physique in the open class. One of the best physiques in the open class because he's got that the vacuum. He has the most strided glutes, so he's the most conditioned person on stage. He has the best midsection. So but he does everything different from everyone else. Not that what he's doing is wrong, but if you do a piece of the puzzle and not all the pieces of the puzzle, it may not work for you.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why he does 2 a days and he can get away with it and other people can't. And I think based off of all the data, I'm figuring out what it is. But when you hear one thing that someone does and it seems off to you because it's not what everyone else does, it's a lot of the things they're doing is different. And so it actually does make sense when you look at it when the whole integrated system is working.
Yeah.
Let's get one more question and then Colin. Let's do Robert's. I like his question.
Okay. Robert wants to know, can training intensity come back up full balls to the wall intensity after round 2 to 3 weeks post show? Food is up. If your food is up, health is better, etc., etc.
It depends, but for me personally, yeah, I'm back to like full on hardcore training 3 weeks after the show, but I'm also a bit of a statistical outlier. Like I have friends that have tried to do what I do and they hurt themselves.
Yeah, usually 3 weeks is about what I take. I mean, Colin can tell you we taper up. Like I would say this week is sort of a quasi. I mean, really, the peak week is a deload. I mean, I don't train that hard on peak week, and then this week, of course, I do the RP style training where your volume is graduated up. So I just kind of start at the beginning of the block, and I'm slowly pushing volume and intensity up as we go. So this week's been pretty easy. But yeah, but probably by 3 weeks we'll be training pretty hard. Yep. Plus, I grow just from the food. It's like why push the training hard when I'm filling back out and getting big just from going 80%. Might as well take advantage of that. And I think there is a risk to injuring yourself post show too. You're still I don't know. Things are still sort of out of whack. And it seems like your strength comes back before your capacity to handle that load does, especially as you get older.
I think the smart thing for the majority of people post show is to do a metabolite focused training block.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I train generally anyway. All right, I think that's it. All right, folks, thank you for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you.